and tidy edited down video, but I have ways for you to make it faster. You can click that little gear on the YouTube settings right there on the video and adjust the playback speed, make me sound like a chipmunk, and it'll go a lot faster. You can also look and see if there's timestamps for this project in the description, and if you're on a desktop, you can hover over the time bar at the bottom of the screen and see if it's chunked up into chapters, and then that way you can go directly to the step you're looking for. And lastly, you can also tap on the screen on the right hand side of the video picture or on the left hand side to make the video jump ahead, forward or backward if you're on a mobile device. And you can adjust that amount in your settings so you can have complete control over how much it jumps. So if you are on a desktop, you can use the fast forward or the rewind, and that will make it go faster as well. You can also enable subtitles, and the little CC on the screen will enable closed captioning. That way, if I am a little bit harder to understand with that double playback speed, the subtitles might help you out. All right, well, I know that it's not a nice little edited video, but if you sew with me, we'll get there together and it'll be lots of fun. And now for the live stream. Happy sewing! Hello! Happy Saturday. Make sure I shut my door. No, not anyone's here. Happy Mother's Day to you too, Diane, and everyone else. I'm just finishing up making my binding. I almost forgot. We're gonna have some binding today. It's so hard to tell the right and wrong sides of this fabric. At least it's on the inside, right? So I just cut a little bit from my bounty of excess fabric. I'm pretty excited about finishing this today too. Trying to find my ends here. Just a few more. I'm not sure what I'm binding. Oh, I'm binding the seams. I need to cut more binding. Sorry. I could only think of the hem. I was like the neckline and maybe like the hem or the sleeve hems. I totally forgot we're doing the seam allowances, so we'll have to cut a little bit there too. All right, and this is the right side. Okay, fine. This one's not gonna. I probably made way too much of this then. This is gonna not be the best stuff for binding because of the crinkle cotton. I made so much of this. No, I'm just making some binding, Libby, and I've already realized I didn't create any for the seam allowance because I won't use this really narrow stuff on that. So I should have, I was planning on doing this like off camera and then I forgot. So kind of jumping in, or I'm a little late depending on how you look at it. Let's see here. Get rid of that. All right. We're gonna wind this up a little bit. We have fun stuff today. We have the invisible zipper. We have the binding. And that's about it. Oh wait, here's another one. It's gonna be a binding fest. I really hope the invisible zipper goes smooth with this new attachment again. I've used it one time and hilariously, it was the only time I've used it. I didn't even experiment with it. I didn't practice. And I used it on the Elmwood skirt video for Cashmerette. I was like, at least this isn't live. If it doesn't work out, I guess I can just do it the other way. But I was confident, I guess, right? But confidence does not sometimes mean it will work, does it? You did. Ooh, Terry, congratulations. Let me say hi to you all. Hi, Diane. Hi, Terry. Hey, Eliza. Hey, Christina. Hey, Libby. Hey, Lisa. I'm just cutting all these little things. It's not really that important. Little
twist it up now. I'm not going to press the little seams because it'll just take the crinkle away anyway. This will probably rank second in my least favorite kind of binding to use. Oh, here's another one. First being double gauze. Double gauze is kind of the worst binding I've ever used in my life. It was so hard to use. I'm kind of exaggerating, but it is really annoying. Oops, I didn't mean to bind the back stitch back. Okay. I have binding for days. I wonder if I could use this on the seam allowance. I don't know. Maybe not. It's too narrow. I don't want to struggle on it. But maybe I'll do some hems. All right, so I didn't set up this camera. Let's see. Oh, it's not too bad. Oh, that's funny. I'm just gonna fix this while I see it. So I played around with my new camera, the one that I said takes a USB-C adapter. I had an adapter. Well, Michael had one. It still didn't work, and so I'm thinking that it's there's something more to it, unfortunately. All right. So I did have to open up this piece of fabric. All right, so I'm gonna do like 1 3/8, my favorite width. That seems so wide after the 1 inch. Let me get a little bit. I already cut off what I could of these. That's why there are so many seams. Always get rid of your selvage. You'll have to do it anyway. You might as well just do it in one step rather than 30 steps, because that's ends up what happening. Trying to be really gentle. I'm also going to try and make it a little faster by folding up the fabric a little bit so I can do quicker cuts. And if someone's typing in, why not do continuous binding? I just don't do that. I don't really like it. It's cool, but it's not faster. And you get a lot of really short sections and the seams pull apart. So I always just do it this way. But it is a cool party trick, I agree. I don't think this will be enough. Eating up my extra fabric. Let's see how it's looking. Maybe we can go like this now. Go this direction. Sorry, I can't see chat. I'm on the other side of the table. I could probably turn my thing around though, huh? This is kind of, yeah, I guess that's okay. It's just not very long. Just a few more strips. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there, and if we need more, it's all ready for me. You know, yeah, exactly, Eliza. Oh, that's cool, Terry. Hey, Julie. I always say, hey Rachel, I don't know if I said hi to you. I always say that it's like ironing a sponge when you work with double gauze. And it's funny because, you know, I hadn't really been in the home sewing world. So I wasn't shopping apparel fabrics when I came to live streaming. And I had a couple of friends in real life that were like, you know, like people who always still asked me like, Saremy, what would you use for this or whatever? But I didn't really know like what the cool kids were doing, you know, in the home sewing world. You know, I would just say, oh yeah, the fabric would work, the fabric wouldn't. And my friends started talking about double gauze a lot. I was just like, why would you use double gauze? Like that's for like baby stuff. And they were like, no, it's not. I'm like, yes, it is. It's for like swaddling. It's like thick scrim. It's so weird, you know? I didn't realize that they had brought this other like double gauze type of thing to the apparel world. So it's kind of funny. And so I do really like the two dresses I have made out of it. They're kind of bouncy. And they're not very receptive to an iron. Not for the structured look, you know? Definitely for the more relaxed, casual kind of vibe. But I do like those two dresses. I did the Myosotis dress and I did a Dahlia dress by Colette. I always stack up my fabric. This time I'm stacking it mainly because I want to be able to make sure I get the right side. I'm still not even that sure, to tell you the truth. But usually when I cut my binding, I'm pretty methodical and I don't do it like that. Like I kind of do it that way, but I'm not doing it on scrap fabric usually. And I line up all the edges to this point to be exactly the same on this end because they will all just seam together that way. It just makes it faster. So. Oh, and I have you're right, I have the Kalispell dress. You know, for some reason, that fabric is so much better behaved than the other two that I've used. The Myosotis was like this blue and yellow, really pretty like watercolor print. I got it from Hearts. And the Myosotis was kind of perfect for that because I've done two Myosotis dresses. I did one with all the like ruffles and then I did one without. They look completely different dresses. And I did the one with ruffles with the double gauze and it kind of fits because, you know, it's kind of parade floaty. The Kalispell double gauze is a little denser and smoother. And that one, the Kalispell is a princess seam bodice, pleated skirt. It's by Itch to Stitch. I actually love that silhouette and dress. Hey, Amy. Oh my gosh, it's not even June and everyone's gonna have their camp shirts done. So in case you missed it, we're doing a camp shirt sew-along in the Guild. Calling it the summer camp shirt sew-along, right? Summer camp sew-along. Summer camp sew-along. It was kind of fun putting it together. I don't really have a whole lot of time right now, so I didn't put together a lot with it, but I did have fun, like, you know, like choose your summer camp adventure. Is it Parent Trap? Is it Dirty Dancing? Or is it Friday the 13th? You know, there's a lot of summer camp lore in the United States, and apparently there's a lot of genres within that. You taped together the Donnie? Nice. Hi, Fiona. How's it going? What are you doing at your new sewing space? Are you sewing? Besides watching YouTube? got a new sewing space. That's awesome. I think for my summer camp shirt, I'm going to draft something. I really love the pullover style of the Donny by Friday Pattern Company. And then, but I already have a few camp shirts. So I was thinking about using one of those and making it a pullover style. I'm not sure when I'll do that. It'll be in June, probably. I was thinking about not even streaming in June. Maybe it'll just be guild only stuff. I sort of need not a vacation, but just like less obligation for a bit. Mrs. Maisel, that's a good one. It's not really a movie that I could link. And she that's what she does do, right? She goes and sings at camp places like that, doesn't she? The Catskills, exactly. I often think that, you know, as American culture goes, we don't have as much unique things to us as most Americans think we do, right? You're finishing off your Mabel dress. Nice. And then I come across things like summer camp, and I'm like, oh, this is definitely not uniquely American, but we've definitely had our own little like version of it. It's also, if you're not an American, you know, our country is pretty gigantic. I grew up on the West Coast. It is very East Coast, in my opinion, because we had summer camp here, but it wasn't quite like you saw in movies and things. Like I went to Girl Scout camp. That was, you know, something I did. But yeah, we didn't really get sent away for the summer. I mean, obviously I was a little young for that era anyway. But yeah. See how those go together? And see, when they're laying next to each other, they're the same angle. I mean, that's kind of, I didn't cut that perfectly, but this is why I always stack them all up like that, because you know that they're going to go together like this. All right. Okay, again, I'm saying this out loud. I'm going to wind this right side out. You know, I just put a little binding thing in here in the trash. Here it is, right here. So if you're making a lot of binding, the one thing about the continuous method is you don't have to clip those little things. If you don't want to clip them, you don't have to. I do, because I'm used to putting it through a binding attachment. No, it never looked like it did in the movies. I also think, Libby, that that's partly because here it stays pretty in summer in most of the populated area of California, which is like the bottom 2/3 of it. It stays pretty hot, like coast to inland, right? And you wouldn't be escaping the heat to go to summer camp. And we just didn't have like big summer camp areas like that. Now, there's probably lots of reasons why it just wasn't a thing. We had Disneyland. We have the ocean. And our ocean is very accessible that way. Yeah, too much money. Totally. Yeah, I mean, speaking as someone being raised by a single mom, I went to YMCA day camp. Which is very much, you know, a more inner city type of thing to do. I didn't live like fully urban, but I did live in like really big suburban areas like Orange County, like right next to Disneyland. That's where I grew up, you know. And on the ocean. I went to the beach a lot as a kid. God, I remember one time I was at the babysitters. Does 4-H camp and band camp count? Absolutely. We have 4-H camp where we live here, and our daughter went to it. It wasn't the best experience because they pretty much were kind of cruel to her because she was vegetarian at the time. It's really sad, but you know, you learn. Yeah, exactly, Diane, right? You had Cabin Lake Tahoe was amazing, but kind of automatically decided what we did. Yeah, that's true, Libby. But that's kind of cool. Did you have like friends you saw every summer there. See, I would have loved that kind of experience where you only saw those people at camp. You probably didn't really like 100% like gel with them, but because you were the only kids of that age in the area, you hung out together anyway. And those are always the weirdest experiences, but also some of the ones that you look back on and you go, oh, that was kind of cool. All right, so yeah, when I'm winding stuff up on something like this crinkle cotton is very fluffy on here. I usually do it a little firmer, but I'm treating this very gently. But set it down. Set it down. And then you'll get a nice smooth edge. That's how that happens. And I just wind it up like this. And as I'm going, I'm trimming off these little corners. You don't have to do that, but like I said, I'm usually putting my binding through a binding machine, so it's just a habit. I won't be putting mine through a binding attachment. This wouldn't, not for what we're doing today, so. But band camp was 2 weeks. He went away for like 3 weeks every summer. That's so fun. I went to Girl Scout camp, and it was a horse camp. I laugh because this is such classic kid stuff, like, cool, horse camp. Yeah, I want to do that. I was not a horse kid. I was not a horse girl. Horse kids are horse kids. Like, they are like live, eat, sleep, breathe, all the things horse, right? I never had a horse figurine in my room. I'd never been on a horse, but except like at, you know, the ones that tethered to like a ribbon in the middle, and you go in a little circle at the fair. Like, that's my experience with the horse, right? Went to Girl Scout horse camp, and I had like, they had brought horses once to wherever I was doing something for Girl Scouts, like my troop or something, or some event. And this camp had brought their horses there. I didn't, you know, kind of vaguely connected that. And I had petted one, and I can't remember his name. I think his name was Slim or something like that. And when we got to camp, when people were picking their horses that they were going to kind of like spend the most time with the week, you got to pick one if you knew one. And I was like, I know that horse. I'll pick that one. He ended up being someone not really great for someone extremely inexperienced like me. And the second day, we were learning how to canter, which is kind of like a gallop, but like doo-doo, doo-doo, doo-doo. I don't even know. I'm not a horse person, right? So as we were cantering, my horse reared up and kicked and bucked me off. And I went flying. We were also at the back of the pack because my horse was feistier, so they had to keep him at the back. Again, you know, I'm probably like, I want to say 10 years old. And I also think I can't remember if this is the same Girl Scout camp, if I got sunburn or something. So anyway, I sprained my wrist, got a black eye, my nose, everything was just like smushed, right? I wanted to go home. They wouldn't let me go home. They told my mom I wanted to stay. And I just like basically stayed in camp for the rest of the week doing nothing because everyone else went back on horses. It was awful. I hop off, and then this is so dramatic. I'm not trying to like, it's just funny to me now. Like, me and my mom fully laugh about this. There's my mom, my single mom, right? She sent her kid off to camp, right? I know, right, Julie? I know. It's terrible. It's like such comedy. At the time, it was so awful as a kid, right? Because you're not in control of your destiny. I think I had a lip boo-boo from the sun. I was pretty kind of sunburned, black eye. I looked like a mess, right? A little kid, you know? So then on our day we get to go home. Yay, right? Get to go home. And I have this funny thing called vasovagal syndrome, which sometimes makes me pass out. It's just I won't go into it. It's not a big deal. It's not dangerous. It's no big deal. It's just something funny that sometimes happens when in really like stressful situations, or something really like if I got hurt, then something painful or something shocks me, or my blood pressure drops, or I'm overheated or starving or something like that, right? And I can fully control this. As a child, I wasn't quite yet to controlling it, and people always overreacted. Well, was just waiting in line to get onto the bus, right? All my gears being stored by somebody, and I passed out in line getting on the bus. I don't know why. I don't remember barely any of it. Well, then, of course, they're like, this kid. This kid, man, she is a mess, right? And I get pulled, those, you know, like they're like fixing me up, right? They're like, get this freaking kid on the bus and get her out of here, right? But because of that happened, I didn't get to be on the bus with all the people I sort of knew. I didn't bond with these people. These people were out all day on horses, but at least I kind of was familiar with them. I ate a little bit with them. I slept in the same cabin with them. No, I did not get to even go on that bus. So then I had to spend this huge, long bus ride on a bus with kids I didn't know. So my mom's eagerly waiting for me, right? She's like, here comes my baby, right? I get off the bus. I have no clue what I look like. There were no mirrors, and I just, you know, as a kid, you don't evaluate your appearance from the lens of a mother. I get off the bus, I bounce off, big smile on my face, in a sling, black eye, bloody lip, like scabs on my face. And my mom was just like, the look on my poor mom's face was like, you know, and I was so happy to see her, just so happy, and she was, and you know, like, she's like, why are you smiling like that? It was just so sad and so funny at the same time. She said, they told me you didn't want to come home. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? So anyway, it was, that was my summer camp experience. So yeah, not Friday the 13th. There was no dirty dancing. It was just me in the infirmary half the time. I knew the nurses at the camp better than anybody there. Oh, man. So, yeah. Okay, one thing I did after we were together the other day was I noticed that I hadn't sewn up this little center front part of my bodice because for some reason I was thinking this little curve was the neckline. And remember I told you, oh, an interesting part of this pattern is I have this little curved part, and this is right here. I'm actually wearing the bodice. I thought about that, Terry, trust me. Like when she had a terrible experience, I was like, of course you had a terrible experience. I'm sorry, you would never have to go again. I want you all to know, when I picked my daughter up from camp, I came prepared. I knew she would be a crank. Like I knew she would not be hopping in the car with a big old smile on her face. I knew my kid. I hadn't heard from her. I knew she would be, I just knew. I showed up with a bean and cheese burrito from her favorite burrito truck, a gigantic thing. Like water or maybe a drink of some sort, like something that she liked. She was like, let's go. She didn't care about anything else. Got in the car. She ate that whole burrito, tiny little thing, if you've seen my kid. And then she passed out for the entire 3-hour drive home. It was like the first time she'd slept and eaten in like 10 days. So I knew. All right, so anyway, so let me show you the profile of this. Well, let me actually turn it inside out so you can see it. So, oh no, Amy. Oh. Okay. So here is my bodice. So this is my neckline scoop right here. Here's the center front, and this is that waist detail I added, and then the little like peplumish type thing down here, right? Well, I did this little carved out section because the bodice kind of needed it. I just had this little pooch, and I wanted it to be a little bit more defined, so I added this. And so when I was sewing up the center front, I forgot that it has this little angle, and I was thinking like, that was my neck. But this is my neckline right here. Makes much more sense. I have a nice right angle to do the binding because I was kind of like, what did I plan here? Maybe. And remember I said, I'm gonna leave this center front unfinished just in case I need to put the binding on, like unstitch the center front, put the binding on, and then restitch it. I don't have to do that because this is, I knew, I had thought ahead. I just wasn't thinking when we were streaming the other day. So here are that, Mom Dooley. Oh. Yeah. Oh yeah, I always take my own car. I never accept rides from people either. Your grandson has that? Oh, I feel bad for him. It's such a pain because other people just don't know how to handle it. Yeah. We will, Amy. We won't be late. I am rarely late. If I'm late, it's because I was really early and ready to go, and then I hesitated and got involved in something. That is classic me. Okay, so where are we at? We have this seam here to bind, right? We have all these seams to bind. So let's just do that while we keep on chatting, because I can kind of do this a little bit more, you know, without thinking too much. So do I want to trim this down a little bit? I kind of want to trim this down to like 3/8 here, the seam allowance. I love that I added all this seam allowance and then I'm trimming it off. All right. That's one. Let's just trim all these right now. Here's the other front. Hi, Randa. Right. I don't know. The movies make it look fun. Oh, Julie, aren't you the one that works nights? That is understandable. And they probably knew that, you know? Let's see. I just remember being so excited to see Cricket, even though I knew she would be really cranky. And I drove all the way up there, you know, like this 3.5-hour drive, I think it was. It was kind of long and hot and then in the middle of like nowhere. And I, you know, listened to whatever I could, podcast or whatever. But I was kind of ready to like hang out and chat with her, and she just slept the whole way. But I was like, maybe this is better. She was pretty happy that I had brought the burrito. Like I could tell she, you know, it definitely decreased the crankiness because she knew. It was like I read her mind and she didn't even know that she needed, you know, preventative tantrums, you know. Okay. I don't know why people are so mean to kids. Like, it doesn't really make them stronger in a lot of areas, you know. It makes them resentful. A lot of lies, yeah, exactly. You were just bad. Oh no, Julie. Oh man. You guys went and had fun while the kiddo was away. I think that is one thing. It's like, you know that at least that they're safe. Maybe that's for my mom who was like, all right, you know, it was kind of a big deal for my mom to send me probably, I would imagine like financially, because it was just me and her, you know, she was a nurse. And, you know, it's like, okay, even if your kid doesn't really like everything they're doing there, at least you know they're safe. So when they come get off the bus in a sling and with a black eye, a sling, munched up face. I haven't really ridden horses since then. Like I've been on a horse a couple times, but I was just never a horse kid. I'm really good with animals though. Like I think I've told you guys that. I'd probably, you know, be okay. I'm not afraid of them. We had draft horses at the farm. Those things were, if you're going to be afraid of a horse, those things are huge. They were really gentle. All right, let's just bind this seam here. This is the back yoke right here. And I imagine, I'm probably going to press this down. So let's start from the underside. Maybe clip this a little bit more. I don't want the seam to pop, you know. It looks pretty good. This is, it was right side out, right? Or right side in. I think it was right side in. All right, we're gonna go, it's gonna push down. That's gonna be my final. So yeah, we're starting on this side, okay. Okay. Oh, me. You know, maybe this narrower stuff would be better. You know? I don't know. That seems really narrow. Where's the edge to this? Oh, there it is. You know what? I'm going to try this. I know I cut all this wide stuff, but I'm going to try this narrower stuff. At least we have options, right? I'm putting it on this like peg back here. It's where my machine, like when I do maintenance on it, you tilt the head back and it's supposed to rest on it. But I call it the binding holder. Yeah, right, Terry? That's what I'm thinking too. You know, when you don't get to sew a few of something, you don't get to figure out the best possible thing, right? So that's what this process is all about. Anytime we're sewing something, we're trying to figure out the best way to do something, and we've never even sewn it before. I kind of want the seam, the stitch length to be a little long. I kind of gently pull binding when I attach it, as long as it's not being used as a facing. If you're using it as a facing, the kickstand, yeah, it's totally a kickstand. That's cute. If you're not using binding as a facing, it's gonna like sit on the edge of something. Gently pull it when you do your first seam. It'll behave a lot better. It'll be a lot easier on that last step that people kind of dread. And I'm just doing this in the seam allowance. I could probably pull down the machine or the camera. I pulled up into the parking lot the other day, and there were 4 deer in the parking lot, kind of in the little like a flower bed if there were flowers in there, but it's a little more like wild. And they were, so the whole parking lot is chain linked in, because this whole area here, it looks like someone chain linked it off so that people didn't like hang out in there, because it's kind of like a little tiny little like forested area. And there's chain link all along the side of the parking lot, and the deer, there were 4, and they were kind of in front of me as I'm coming down in the lower parking lot, and they're there going up to the fence, and there's like a bush on the fence, you know, like there's not very many things, because it's probably was never very vegetated here, because it's, you know, like under a forest canopy type of vegetation, but scrubbier and drier, like, you know, like California type of, you know, Sierra Nevada type stuff, right? But I don't know. I've never noticed this because you cannot see it. There's a hole in the fence. The fence looks perfect. It looks brand new. But there's a hole where this bush is that the deer can just walk through. It looked like a magic trick. Like they just were all one by one walking through this bush, kind of like Narnia, into the lot next door. It was so funny. Oh, let me pull the camera down. Maybe I should zoom it so it's not in my face. I always have to. This new camera, though, I will be able to zoom. What? I'm gonna need to, just a second. Jeez Louise. There's someone, I don't know what's going on out here, but it's really loud. Thought we were being robbed or something. I can't see what's going on, but something loud is going on. All right. Do you ever think about the noisiest way to do a task? Me either. Okay. Nice, clean, finished seams. I don't want to catch my blouse in there. Oh, I was gonna bring the combs today and I forgot. I'm not too bummed because I can't believe what I've gotten done in the last few days in preparation for going away for a couple days and for my daughter visiting and her friend coming with them. And something was bound to happen, right? Something was bound to be forgotten. So I'll show you the week of the Winslows. But I got some more tips from Jan. It'll happen. It'll happen. You think every time, oh man, I think that I have been the least considerate person in my life. You know, I think that's an only child thing. You just don't realize that there's other people there. You know, and then I learned that there were other people, you know, to consider. And I kind of swung the other direction. And I'm somewhere in the middle now, I think. Probably still got those, you know, somewhat only child tendencies. I'm not going to pretend that I don't. Even I do have a brother and sister, but they happened when I was a lot older. The 27th, Eliza. There we go. See, it's just so nice. Like the garment feels so good when you have it, when it's just so clean finished inside. It is a little bit of work though, but you know, no one's gonna see it, but it feels good when you're wearing it. All right, so where's the fronts? Here's the fronts. Didn't have to cut all that other stuff, I guess. Maybe we'll use it, I don't know. It's like, I want to say it's like plissé. They called it crinkle cotton, but I feel like if you've been sewing for a while and shopping for fabric for a long time, that you would recognize plissé. I don't know if that makes sense to you. There's a little tuck right here I'm gonna get rid of. It's in my original seam. Let's straighten that out a little bit. This feels very narrow right now. Why does that feel so narrow? Oh, because I just sewed it. Dang it. Like what? I can't do that. I fixed it, but I included the binding. We don't need to include the binding. It's definitely not couture sewing, is it? It never is on this channel. Okay. Now I'm going to pull that apart, and now I'm going to fix this seam right here. Well, I want to fix this seam, but there we go. Now I can fix it. Okay. There we go. I love that someone in my Instagram DMs got my, I got the video game reference in one of my stories for the 1930s. Because there is this really cool video game called Cuphead. And I highly urge you to like just look at the trailer for it, because these guys a few years ago made this video game. It's a single player game. It's like I would consider, it's not a platformer. I don't really know all my video game types, but it's a run and gun. That's what it is. It's a run and gun style. Okay, so but they did it in the style of a 100% authentic 1930s cartoon, and you play as this little guy with a cup as a head, or a mug as a head, and there's a Cuphead and Mugman. And it's got this kind of like old school story with it that you have to like, you know, do things to progress, you know? But the music, the graphics, the way the mechanics work, it's really hard too. Like I'm stuck in the game. I've been stuck for like a year and I don't work on it very much. But it's amazing. Like, it's amazing. In fact, I know that they got a deal to do, like, I think a Netflix cartoon series based on it or something. So it's really cool. Just really cool graphics and stuff if you like the 30s or that era. And the cartoons were kind of weird. Like, the bosses that you fight are weird. Like, it's like a flower in a pot. And it looks so fine. And then it has teeth, you know? Nothing really makes sense. I think that's very indicative of a lot of those older cartoons. It's like, what is happening here, you know? All right. Terry. Couture or taking your time? That's just process sewing, Terry. You're just process sewing. You mean to do that, right? Do I ever sleep? What do you mean, do I ever sleep? I wake up about 6:30 in the morning, but I don't get out of bed. I wake up at 6:30. I hang out in bed a little sleepily. I get out of bed about 8, 7 or 8. Yes, exactly, Nixer, exactly. Yeah, it's so, you just think, how hard can this game be? It's so cute, right? It's so cute. There's not much to it. You only get 3 lives though. It's just not enough. I want infinite. I'm so busy. Julie, I am on that grind, you know? Just trying to do anything I can to make this a reality. Am I like sewing on my garment here? I feel like I'm sewing on my garment. I hope not. I mean, this is my full-time gig, you know. I also have 0 social life. I don't mean that in a negative way, but I don't hang out or do anything. I go to bed at about midnight, so there's a lot of hours in the day. I work from about 10 to 6 every day. Plus, you know, whatever I do in the evening or before work, just kind of keeping up on comments, messages, stuff like that. So I don't feel that busy. I really don't. I would love to be busier. All right. We got all our seams are bound on the inside. This one here, I was going to press open and hem under and top stitch down. Now that I realize it's incorporating this right here, kind of wondering if that's what I want to do. It'll work here, like I can press this open, but right here is another story. What do I want to do here? I could bind these separately. I could take this seam out right here and make it so that it's pivoting there. Like this seam allowance, like I can leave it right here, but just take it out right there. I think that's what I need to do actually. Because it would have been continuous. It wouldn't have been in this two-part type of thing. I'm just trying to make sure I only take out the seam. There's a lot of sewing here. I think I'll take it out here. This would be a lot faster to sew if I wasn't trying to figure out what I want to do as I go, right? Just want to take out a few. I'm going to reinforce that seam, that juncture right there. All right. Just going to go over that little juncture there. All right, so now we have this. Let's see. I really hope that acts the way it did when it just looks kind of like it's going to poke out, you know? But if I leave this, press the seam open, I can still work on that. So do I press this open? My plan was to turn this under like this. I keep having a panic attack that I used the wrong side of the fabric. And then top stitch it down. That's what I did on this one right here. But I don't have to do that. I could bind it on each side. I don't want it to be too heavy. And right here would be hard to pivot. Oh, what if I did, I could do Hong Kong. That's a little flatter. What if we do that? Let's do a Hong Kong finish, which is a little different than binding the seam. So we're gonna sew the seam, each seam allowance with the binding. We're gonna do it right sides together. I never get to do a Hong Kong finish. All right, so let's do this like this. And can I just kind of, I don't have much room here. Yeah. same thing. I'm just making sure I got the right side. How many times have you seen me sew binding and I'm like, oh, there's the seam. I've got the wrong side up. All right, we'll do the same thing on this side. Oh, I just remembered something. Something you guys don't care about, but something I care about. I gotta remember. I got a new video gig too, so I'm really excited that I'm gonna be able to shop for fabric at Hearts Fabric on Monday for it. I might keep an eye out for a solid green for a belt maybe in this too. Okay, so now we're going to trim this. That is not a very even seam allowance right there. Trim that one, and we'll trim this one a little bit. And let's use the iron a little bit. It was? That's awesome, Terry. I'm so glad. What'd you guys think of that quick fit? Was it stuff you kind of already knew? I need to really work on my teaching style, huh? All right, Amy. Gonna go watch a soccer game, I bet. Okay, so I kind of don't want to press anything but the seam allowance because I don't want to press out the crinkles. So we're just gonna press this little strip of binding. It got so hot in my office yesterday. I don't know if you guys could tell during that live stream last night how hot I was. I was actually sweating. Oh, in fact, I was going to set up my fan in here today just for the end of the live stream. I bet it'll get too hot. But it was 90 something, 92. It was like 55 the other day. All right, I'm just gonna press it on this side and then I'm gonna hand do the other side. I'm not gonna press it after this. You can though. Let me see, do I want to? This is kind of wide, but yeah, we could. Here, we'll just do it like this. So now with your Hong Kong finish, what you do is you just press this binding to the other side, but you don't need to turn it under. You just need to turn it. And then when we go to sew it, we're just gonna fold this over. And when we're gonna sew it, we're gonna stitch it in the ditch of the binding there, and it's gonna catch this flat raw edge. So you don't turn it under on this side. So it's a nice lower profile style of binding the seam. You might have to trim your seam allowance down a little bit to make sure that when you turn the seam allowance to the underside that it'll get caught. My binding that I cut here was 1 inch wide. Things like thicknesses, like these junctures here, they will push your binding a little bit away, so you got to be careful about that. But, you know, the binding is stretchy, so you can kind of, you know, gently pull it and stretch it to reach sometimes. That's what's great about it. There's one. And we'll do this one here. And if I want to top stitch this on the outside, I still could. It's probably a little like extra, but I'm leaving myself open to options and like how I want it to eventually look at the very end instead of just going for it. So The binding, once I bind this, the seam will be finished either way, right? And then I can decide later, like, you know, it needs a little bit more along the center front, like a little more structure, or maybe I want some visual interest. I can then decide to maybe top stitch the center seam along either side of it, and it'll just catch this on the underside. I just got my thread stuck. Hi, Louise. How's it going? Oh, that's great, Terry. I'm glad. I can't wait to see what dress form you get. Like, I'm excited about this for you. All right, so now I'm going to stitch this from the right side of the binding. So remember, I sewed it right sides together. I know it's really hard to see what's going on here, but this is my seam allowance right here. See, there it is, the seam allowance. And then I opened it up. I sewed binding to each side of it. And now I'm going to press it under, and I'm going to stitch in the ditch on either side. So there's my pressed seam allowance with binding on either side. A Hong Kong finish sounds super fancy, and it's easier to do than binding. I feel like my needle is a little big for this. It's a 14. Probably a 12. Oops, that might not catch it right there. Would have been a little better. Maybe even a 10? I don't know. I'm not being precise about the stitch in the ditch. Like that. Let's see. Okay, it did get caught. So now see how the end of this edge is nice and clean and this is nice and flat. All right, let's do this side. Hey Mary, how's it going? Yeah, it's just so nice to have, like I've said a million times, when I got my Beatrice, I could not wait to see myself from the back. Because it's just really hard. Even if you do have a sewing buddy or someone who can help you, they may not know exactly what you're going for or what bugs you. You'll have to get used to the changes you need to do between your dress form and you, and then it's like, once you know that, you're like, oh, I know every time I put something on my Beatrice is smaller than me, by the way, but every time I put something on there, it's so hard to get it on there. And I always think, oh God, it's gonna be too small. I put it on me and it's big. So it's just one of those weird things about the tackiness of the fabric, getting hung up on the dress form. Not having someone, like, it's so underrated that a dress form can't do this, the shoulders. So if you're, when you have like a professional dress form, you push the shoulders and they collapse. And that is so key. It makes all the difference when you're putting a garment on and off. And the Beatrice doesn't really do that. So hopefully yours does that, Terry, because that's a huge feature. All right. So let's look at it. We have a nice, clean finished center front seam there. And then if I want later, I can top stitch it on either side if I want. I can decide that later. All right, so we have the neck binding. I told you, it's just gonna be a binding stream. How am I gonna make this work? I could put this right here in the seam allowance. Let's do that. Let's put a little white on. white. Maybe cream would be better. It is a busy time of year for people. How many of you have like graduates? Do you have graduates in your house? Or I feel like it's the end of the school year. What about fun school functions? Do you guys have anything? Oh no, Fiona. Oh my gosh. Sorry, my chair's so squeaky. That is definitely the worst because you have to, can you just hand wind a little bit of the elastic then? You don't have to do a ton this time. All right, I'm gonna just tack this on here first. And then I'll put this over it. Double labeling. Don't really need to do that, but you know. Party dress. Okay. There we go. That works. That was easy. Okay. And just going, because why I have no, yeah, this time of year, I just remember how busy it is. I don't know how teachers do it either. Like, oh my God. All right. So let's probably could have made that a little longer. Look at that seam allowance. I didn't know I was going to be opening it up. I didn't think about it, so I didn't put the shape. So you see that how often do I stress about transitions and things like that? This is a good example of another place where you need your seam allowance to meet this edge here. I don't have, I feel like my seam allowance is a 3/8 or a 1/4 on the neckline here, but it's going to have to be a little bit more here. I'll trim this off right here. Because look, this isn't going to get caught in there. So always think about your seam allowances too. So if I put this here at 3/8, see it's just right there. So. Yeah, Mary, I bet they are. You're making the Cassie dress, and then Fiona is making the Mabel. Isn't that sew over it as well, Fiona? Can't remember. All right, so either way, if I want to catch this into the seam allowance is going to have to, I'm going to have to trim away a little bit here. Tilly in the buttons, that's what it is, yeah. I knew it was another English. I was generalizing. So my center front neck just got a little bit deeper. I'm going to do it so that it's symmetrical. So I'm going to pull this over here like this. Put you like that. Really, it got a little wider. That's about it. Let's see if that's a little better. So now we have the seam allowance going almost all the way up there. All right, so let's finish this neckline, and then you know what we'll be left with? Side seams and zipper. All right, so to start this in the round, I'm just gonna fold back my binding and lay it on here. Right sides together, since this is gonna go to the inside. You can get a Beatrice from Beatrice. So, Terry, I don't know if you're interested in this, but like if you wanted to get into draping and working with a dress form, you can join the Beatrice Mighty Network. It might cost. I think there's a free component, and then there's others that might cost. But they, even if you did it for a little bit, and they have lots of, you know, like dress form related content. You don't have to have a Beatrice. All right. So we're just gonna do my neckline now. And the seam allowances are being pushed up, right? Yeah. I think the back yoke is getting pushed down. The front is getting pushed up because of those gathers. All right, I'm trying to keep it in its nice little curve shape here, not stretch it out at all. Let's open up this seam. That's my center front neck right there. I'm also definitely not stretching the binding out. This kind of binding is you want as much length as possible. So you don't want to stretch it out because that will make it shorter. It seems kind of contrary, but that's what happens. It'll get too short because it's been stretched. The other yoke seam. All right, we're at the center back neck. Ooh, perfect. Right before this seam too. And I just lay that on there. Here's that turn back edge. Lay it on there, back stitch, and then I'm just gonna trim it off. When I have these, like this little seam right here, I get rid of this. You don't really need it. It's enough without, because you have the seam allowance of the little seam there. Look at that, it covers almost all of it. So we can trim it down even more. There we go. All right, so now I'm gonna clip my neckline. And we're gonna make an offering to the sewing fairy that this is gonna turn to the inside nice and flat. It won't. Yeah, I thought I'd just suggest it, Terry, because you're already familiar with the Mighty Networks platform. And it's really easy, like if you belong to more than one network, it's really easy to switch between them. Kind of like if you have multiple Instagram accounts and you're switching between them. It's that easy. I belong to 4 Mighty Networks. Isn't that crazy? One of them is the Mighty Networks Mighty Network. And then behind the seams for the Alice and Company thing, the historical clothing thing, which I wonder if they'll use their Mighty Networks past the year-long thing. I imagine they would. Oh, interesting. Oh, so how did you get the pattern, Mary? Are you pirating patterns, Mary? No, I'm just teasing. Pattern broker in the chat. No, I'm just teasing you. All right. I'm going to understitch this. So I'm going to press the seam allowance toward the binding piece. I'm going to start at the center back here. Oh, so when I do things like this, yeah, they are, Libby, that's true. I'm just kind of curious if they'll keep up with it because it does cost. If you're ever doing binding on a neckline, I have a dedicated YouTube tutorial that's far more easier to see what I'm doing instead of this busy print. And there's a lot of really good tips to it because you see this a lot on beginner patterns, and I personally don't think it's of it as a beginner thing. So if you've struggled with it, it is a tricky finish for a neck. It's easier if you bind the edge. Even if you're not good at binding, it is way easier to bind the edge than to turn it to the inside and use it as facing. If you have to do that though, what I recommend is before you do the understitching or do the last step, press this seam as if it's in its final position, like turn the binding to the inside. I know it's not understitched or stitched down, and press it and give these little clipped edges a chance to spread out and be in their final position because they need to spread out in order to lay flat. Oh, got it, Mary, I see. You didn't even have to explain yourself. I really was just teasing you. All right, so I'm going to understitch this. I'm not pressing because I don't want to get rid of the crinkle of the cotton. So this is kind of a unique place. A unique application where you don't press. I could probably be really careful and try and press just the little bit, just the little clipped edges, but it is kind of hard. It's not mohair. It's from Blackbird. Hi, Kira. How's it going? Yeah, that is interesting that you didn't get instructions if they give you the pattern. Like, I want to start a pattern club where you don't have to give instructions. I would totally have a pattern club if I didn't have to do all the work of all the things. Because I know they probably provide everything, right? So, all right. So now we're going to turn this to the inside. I'm just going to finger press it around the perimeter here. And I'm also going to turn it the other direction. It's a lot of top here. Yeah, they had a lot of crinkle cottons, and they came in some really cool colors and prints and stuff. Oh, I see, Mary. Most of the fabrics I get are from Hearts because it's just really convenient for me. They ship almost immediately. You got to be careful, and they're close. You would join my club. I thought you meant theirs. Yeah, okay. I've thought about it. Just starting, many times, starting pattern thing, but oh man, the amount of work that would go into it, especially because there's a lot of talk about all sorts of aspects about pattern companies where people, that find controversial, Oh, Mary. Now I feel really bad. I'm sorry for teasing you. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you. From everything from inclusive sizing, which I wouldn't do it unless it was inclusive sizing, first of all. But beyond that, like paying testers, paying models to be photographed, all of that for me would be they'd probably be just make it so I wouldn't do it at all. And I support those things. That's why I support people getting paid for their time to test it. I support models getting paid to be photographed. And you know, the idea of doing a pattern for testing, but they're not actually using the testing feedback. They're just really trying to get a lot of people to sew their item, post about it to generate excitement. I think that's totally fine as long as people are upfront about like, hey, we just really would like to populate our hashtag. We would really like to see your experience. We want to see the variety we get, and we want others to be excited about it. There's nothing wrong with saying that and just doing that, right? But if you do the math on a pattern, I haven't done it, you know, lately, but I don't really need to. Let's say, who likes math? Let's see how this turned out first, actually, because I'm a little worried about that front area being tight. See, look, I still got that little like thing. I might work on it a little bit, and it's because when you fold back, you see it lifting up right there? When you fold back your facing or your binding or whatever, this seam that you're sewing, the binding edge there is the same length as the one you sewed to the neckline, but if you measure those two places, this one here is a lot longer, and that's why that it doesn't lay flat. So. Right, Terry? So true. Oh, thanks, Milla. Welcome to So. This looks still good, though. I will work on that. We still have the hems of the sleeves. And let's see, that's the left side. I'm going to put the zipper on. All right, so let's do a French seam here on this underarm. But say it again about the 29. Okay. Yeah, this is actually really, really important in my opinion. All right, do you see, let me see if I can get it to really, I'm gonna try and just get this to lay down, right? Okay. Do you see how this is standing straight up right here? Look, that's how it should be, but it's standing straight up. So if you look at it from the side, see it doing the whoop-de-doo? See that neck right here? I feel like I'm not too shabby of a sewer. And see, it still happens to me. So this is why I say, if you're someone who does this kind of finish a lot, and you get this a lot, you get torquing, or your whole neck just looks like, boop, it does that little lift there. That right there is because, I'll draw a picture. Because I think that when you understand where something sits, we're getting out the Guild the Guild dry erase board. This is what I use in workshops and things. So here's your neck, right? Here's your neck. I love this kind of stuff. And now we want to bind it. If you're a beginner, you're learning to sew, you haven't sewn a lot of necklines like this with facings, even if you aren't a beginner, make a facing. Just make a parallel piece of fabric like this to your neck, one for the front, one for the back, and make it like 2.5 inches wide, cut. Just trace your pattern piece and make a parallel thing. It's way easier, okay? But if you're going to do binding, you're following the instructions, and or it's just really your only option, like I have right here. It might be able, it won't take out. No, it won't take it out. It'll come back. Because here's the deal. This is our cut edge, right? This is our cut edge. Let's do our seam line is this edge right here. This is where our garment is going to finish. That's the seam line. So this right here is our seam allowance. If you measure this blue line and you measure this pink line, the blue line is going to be longer, all right? So when you have a piece of binding, right? So you have your piece of binding, it is straight. Both these edges are measuring the exact same length as one another, but you're using this edge to sew here, right here on your seam line, right? You sew it there, right? And now you've taken this and you've sewn it, right? Like that, right? And onto that blue line. Sorry, my binding is sticking to my little eraser. Now this right here is our exposed line. Use my left hand over here. All right, so now we're on our seam line. This is our finished neckline, right? We've sewn our binding to it. You know, it's sitting here, sticking out a little bit here and placed on there, so there's our seam, right? Now we're gonna turn it to the inside and top stitch it down, okay? So when you turn it to the top, to the inside and top stitch it down, you're stitching this down, and plus you're turning it under, right? You've clipped all of your neck. This edge right here measures longer than this one, right? So this edge that you're stitching it down onto the garment, if you were to measure where it's being stitched down, measures longer, and you're using the exact same length of the binding right there. So the binding can't stretch out that much. It doesn't matter if you're clipping into it. The binding doesn't get longer along one edge than it does on the other. So that's why you want to use bias, because it stretches and it will be a little more forgiving. And that's why I also say press it so that all those clips splay out and they're kind of in their best possible situation before you stitch it down. Because these lengths get longer and longer, but this doesn't. And that's why using just a shaped facing works perfectly, because you're sewing onto the neckline the exact same shape, and you're not trying to make a rectangle fit a circle. So that's my little thing. Okay. Oh no, Jan. That's a bummer. The ironing and calm it down, but it just won't go away. So, all right, we're gonna do the French seam. I'm gonna zip it on this side. Just wanna make sure I don't do it wrong. I'm gonna do a French seam on this side. Good old French seam. Easy peasy at this point, right? No binding. I'm kind of swimming in binding though. Try and get this to match pretty good. Time is it? 12:30. Okay, cool. We're almost done. Well, kind of. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the sleeve hems. I sort of want something invisible. Don't we all, though? Over to match. Yeah, that is a bummer. What will I do? Well, I'm gonna press it and I'm gonna see how bad it is when I'm wearing it. There's a lot of contour on the body there. It could be worse or better when I put it on. So I'm just gonna see how it reacts. There's not a whole lot I can do there without maybe making like a really narrow shaped facing, kind of like binding, but an actual, just a really narrow facing. And I'd be prepared to do that. Like, it's sometimes just worth it, you know? All right, can we sew this without pressing it? I think we can. Look at that. I got a nice little crisp edge there. Just finger pressing this crinkled cotton. I had to replace my zipper in my Ames jeans last year, Jan. Did you see that? Because I accidentally used a non-locking zipper. So they would just, you know, slowly come unzipped. It looked like a locking zipper, but you know, some of those bigger, heavier, like metal zippers are intended for, you know, bag making, you know? And they look like a jeans zipper, and I just grabbed it thinking, perfect. Not perfect at all. But I used it as an opportunity to make that waistband really much wider so that I could raise the rise. I don't know if you saw that live stream. It actually really rescued my Ames jeans so I can wear them. Did I just run out of bind? Oh no, bobbin? No, I didn't. I'm not sure how well I matched my side seam, but I think I should have checked probably. Let's check it out. Ooh. Well, I nailed it down here, but look at how different that's a pattern issue. I think that's my seam allowance issue. I had too many seam allowances going. That's something I'm gonna have to let go. That means that my my zipper won't match. God, I'm so paranoid about the fabric right side and wrong side. Okay. All right, we're to that invisible zipper right now. So let's prepare the edge here. How's this side look? All right, so I think, I can, right? All right, here's my zipper, here's my foot. So when I sew this on, I think that I can pre-bind this. This is what I'm trying to figure out my seam finish right now. If I pre-bind this edge, I'm not missing something, right? I can pre-bind my edge and then I can put my zipper on. I think I'm gonna do that. If you're putting a zipper in, think about your seam finish first because you don't want to have to do it once the zipper's there and it's really hard to get close to it. That would be a classic Saremy thing to do, to be honest. I'm going to do a Hong Kong finish again. I don't think I'm forgetting anything. Because it's not like the edge of the fabric goes through the foot. It's just the foot that goes through the foot, or the zipper that goes through the foot. So this is the yoke seam, and the seam gets pressed that way. Okay. Oops. This is the, what is that right there? I did catch my blouse right there. Okay, this is the back and the seam allowance goes down. All right. I don't think I offset them on the other side seam. I just pressed them both towards the sleeve. You're teaching your niece to sew for a second every garment. I talk her into making a sleeveless shift dress for her mom for Mother's Day. Aww. For her second ever garment. Aww. That's a great project. I love that. Don't let me forget about that funny spot I saw. Yeah, we're just pressing this little edge here. This is in the seam allowance. My daughter learned to sew, and she does have a sewing machine, but I think it's at our house. And I didn't teach her, because you know how that would have gone. And I think I've told you guys this before, but one time she had her friends over. I think she was like in high school. She had her friends over, and I could hear something in there, and I was like, what is that sound? Like, what kind of machine is she using? And I looked, she was using her sewing machine, and I asked her later, I was like, what were you doing? She goes, oh, sometimes I just patch my friends' things. Like, someone wanted a patch on their backpack, and another person had a hole that we just couldn't get fixed by hand, so I used my machine. I was like, oh my God. Made me so happy. Ooh, see all that crinkle I just took out? Hopefully that's in the seam allowance. All right. Oh, wait, let's press this one more time. When I worked at the farm in Colorado and I made $200 a month, that was my salary, I would do little sewing jobs for people. And it really helped, you know, just having that little skill. Even if you undervalue yourself, you're still going to get some extra money, you know. Not that I'm advocating for undervaluing, but sometimes, you know, your clientele doesn't have a lot of money either. Like if you're in a dorm. And I would usually take payment in juice. Like that's what I wanted. I have a huge sweet tooth, and at the farm, I only could eat what we grew. That was it. And most farms don't have a lot of diversity in their crops, but we did, so I was really lucky. We had everything. We had dairy, meat, vegetables. Well, the only thing we didn't have was like bread. And we had a bread baker come every year or every weekend. And then we had a guy who kept bees on our property. So I could get some of those things. So that was the only type of stuff we had. All right, so when people would say, hey, you know, would you fix this hole or would you hem my pants? I would ask for real juice. I wanted 100% real juice, which at the time was like a $5 jar, but it also meant they had to go to town and get it and bring it to me. And that was huge. Like I didn't have to do that, and I don't know, it was just a win-win for me at the time. Where's my other one? Here it is. I couldn't even see it. It's going to be late. Wait. With knit fabric. Oh my goodness. That is sweet. Yeah, Jan, absolutely. Someone else brought that up. It's going to be late. She hasn't finished yet. We need to ship it back to Cali. My niece ran away from her boy. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh. I hope not. Payment in kind. Yeah, good for her. I'm glad she has support. That's so hard to do at any age, you know? That's very brave of her. Okay. No putting it off any longer. Yeah, she is lucky to have you. All right. Here is my side seam here, all ready to go. Look at that, nice. I mean, my Hong Kong finish is very quick and dirty. Well, it doesn't even look like a seam allowance yet. Oh, that's good, Mary. That is a really good skill. Good distraction. Zipper time. Let's check our seam. Yeah, this one's going to be a little, those side things are going to be a little off. I'm planning on doing this so that the zipper's from the top down. I feel like that's so much easier than going up, you know? So I think I just want to go to about right here. So let's mark where we want this to end at the top. So if you're doing that, you just pretend like it's the other direction if it's kind of confusing, right? So we'll just pretend like this is the bottom of the zipper right here. And I think I'm going to make it stop like right about here. This is about 2 inches below the armhole. This is my underarm seam of the sleeve, the armhole seam, the top of the bodice right here, and then this is the hem down here. I have a really, really long invisible zipper. One thing I've learned with invisible zippers is it's nice to have like a longer one. A lot of companies, when you're buying their pattern, they tell you the length of the zipper for the opening. If you can get one longer for the invisible, it's a lot easier to set in because the bottom part of an invisible zipper down here, you lose quite a bit of it. You lose like that much. Doesn't seem like a lot, but say your opening is 7 inches and you're trying to put in the zipper, you can't sew along here when you're putting in your invisible zipper. You're gonna have to stop like right up here. So you lose about 1.25 inches of that length. So most likely they've built that in to the opening so they know you're not gonna be able to open your zipper all the way, right? So you just need to remember that if you're already cutting it short with your zipper, like you have a 6 inch and they ask for a 7 inch, know that it's going to be like a 5 inch opening. So just remember that with these. All right, so I'm going to have mine end up back there like this. And I'm going to have it go down to the hem and end, I'm going to make sure my side seam is the same length because look at that. Why is it not the same? What the heck? Is it really not the same length? Oh, look at this. It's just, there's so much bias happening in this garment. Look at this. That's my underarm. We got that. Why is this one not matching but the other one matched perfectly? Oh, that's good, Mary. You know what to do. Maybe that's my cutting skills because that does look a little wonky there. Yeah, exactly. You are the perfect person for her. She's so lucky. Okay. I'm gonna line up the top of my zipper where I want this to end down here, which is like right about there. Do I put the hem in first? I think I do. And I'm just thinking like a really simple, like rolled hem, like this. So let's hem it. I'm not procrastinating. I'm actually really excited about doing this. We're gonna hem this first. This is very stretchy at this moment, this part right here. I'm a little undecided still on my thread color choice, but I'm not sure what else I would have done. Trying to be really gentle. I don't want to stretch this edge out because then it'll be wavy. I think I'll probably get a little bit of waviness because of the crinkle cotton, no matter what. And hopefully I can kind of scrunch it back into the shape or the length I want when I'm getting ready. I think Jan, are you in the early part of the stream? I think she is. I'm loving the summer camp references. With the Dirty Dancing reference there, I got that. It's a little wavy. It's just, it's probably because this seam draws it up a little bit right here. Hey, you know what I saw the other day? Oh, that was kind of a chunk. That you can get your scissors sharpened online. I bet all the hairstylists out there know this already because they were certainly catering to hairstylists. But they also said sewing or fabric scissors are welcome. Has anyone used one of those services before, like an online scissor sharpener? I found 2. I know there's probably more than that. That's what I think too, Terry. The crinkle cotton will kind of relax a little bit. Just making sure my length is the same. My side seam here. You haven't needed it? Yeah, I don't typically need them very often either. But I do have some that I wouldn't mind sending. Oof, this, I don't have much seam allowance on this side. Eek. Let's hold that like that. All right. Hold, stay there. Tucking that in nice. Okay. All right. So now we have our zipper. We want this right sides together. And I'm going to try and get it as close to the top as possible. I'm just thinking about my, will I be able to do something like this? Probably, right? Just trying to, actually, let's just use chalk. Okay. Hi, Stella, welcome. Thanks, Kira. Yeah, the 2 I saw that looked like they were definitely, active. The price difference was pretty significant, but one of them did look a little bit the more expensive one did look like they were a little bit nicer. I'll just say it that way. That's what I mean. Okay, here we have our chalk. I think that with invisible zippers, the worst part is making sure that you get it right sides together. So this is right sides together like this. Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad, Estella. That's awesome. Yeah, I don't think you need a serger for most anything, you know, like even knits, you know, that you can do so much without a serger. Most of my early content, like for years, I hardly ever used a serger just because I never wanted to assume someone has one. I didn't use one at all on this project. I still have a little note from my daughter. She brought me a little treat one day. Okay. Oh, I keep sticking it back on there. So this is the invisible zipper foot I'm using. That's what it looks like. And you guys are turning me into a gadget person. So the way it works is let me show you from the top here. You see how it's going to run along the zipper, and with an invisible zipper, what happens is this little edge here is turned back. Oh, sorry, there we go. So you want to stitch with an invisible zipper. You want to stitch right about here. On this one, usually there's like a line. I don't know if you can see it, but right where my fingernail is, there's a line, and everything to the left of it, that's kind of where you want your stitch to land. Not too close to the zipper because you need the zipper head to be able to glide past. But when you don't use a zipper foot like this, you press your zipper open like this, and then you stitch there, right sides together. And then when you're done, this is gonna roll over it. You see how it just kind of rolls over? That's why you can kind of press this open. So you just press it open, be gentle because you don't want to melt your zipper. And then yeah, it just rolls over. And that's what makes it invisible, because it's pulling the fabric toward the zipper teeth. Yeah, me too. I think French seams are my favorite, for sure. All right. Right sides together. Right. Very confusing. Let me put my foot on. I got this foot from Waywack. I want to say there's a link to it on my website in the tools, just because I try and keep it somewhere, just in case I forget to put it in the video description. But I'm not sure I linked to this one, so I'm sorry if I didn't do that yet. Just let me know if you want to know which one I got, and I will send you a link to it. I'm using an industrial machine. So you can probably find an invisible zipper foot for your home machine. I had bought the plastic foot thing that says it works on any machine for my home machine for invisible zipper foots, and it never worked. I have a Bernina, so the Bernina probably has its own $90 foot to do that with. Oh, the pleated skirt, yeah. So you can, well, I have a lot of ideas for that. There are ways you can clean finish those pleated edges by enclosing them, using enclosed seam finishes. All right, do I want this close to the bottom? I kind of do. I don't really want a gap at the bottom of my hem. You know what I mean? Like between, like this, I don't want this gap. So I'm putting my zipper top. Maybe we'll do that. Will I regret that? Okay, I want to sew this on the seam line, so I'm gonna pull it over a little bit. Maybe I'll just put my tape along the Hong Kong seam there. Like that. So my head is lined up with the, yeah, is that too big? have a 5/8 inch seam allowance. Let me see where this is at. That's perfect. Okay, we're gonna do that. All right, because I know I'm being really cavalier. I want you to see how I'm doing this here. Here's my side seam, right? It's a lot of shirt. It's a lot of shirt. Here's my side seam right here, okay? This, it's upside down. That's the hem. This is the top. Here's my zipper right side up, right? So let's pretend like this is sewn. The side seam is sewn. You want this to face out just like this, right? So that's why I know, but I want to go upside down. That's why I know that I want to turn this right sides together like this, and this one goes on that side like that. So just be really methodical about it. Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah, see, there's a lot of seam finishes out there because sergers aren't that old. And then I want to put the side. I've only used this foot once. Second time using this foot. I feel like I'm about to sell a lot of these feet though, so let's hope. Even though I don't sell these things. This is the awkward side. So this foot pushes the teeth out of the way and lets the needle sit in that little divot I was telling you about. I'm having to lift up my presser foot a lot because of the thicknesses here. It's making the zipper tape crumple a little bit. All right, here's my chalk. Why are you getting hung up now? Here's my chalk. Okay. Still nervous I did it wrong. Let's see. Oh, it's really close right there. Always test it so you make sure that that doesn't happen. My fabric got a little hung up there. I felt it. You can even see right there. It's a little bit wiggly right there. So let's pull that out and restitch just that little section here. The crinkle cotton is so lightweight that I think it's just losing the battle with the zipper tape. The zipper tape is a little thicker. So take out a few stitches here. When I did this on the Elmwood, it worked out so good, and that was like a lighter weight, like a canvas, you know, like an apparel canvas. Stitches are tiny. This is, you remember how I said it got hung up? This is why. It just started, it stopped sewing forward. Okay. Let's see if that's far enough. Not quite. Right here. See how close that is? This is a good lesson in why you don't want to sew too close to your zipper too. Get rid of these threads. You don't want them to hang up on your foot. Like mine was just doing. All right, so look at that. That looks pretty good. Okay, so we just need to re-sew that little section there, right here. So it's from here to here. I want to get rid of these threads, just make sure they don't get into my zipper at all. See that right there? I'm going to hold it taut so it doesn't get hung up this time. Let's see if I fixed it. Fingers crossed. There we go. Perfect. All right, so let's do our other side. Can you see? Sorry, it's really close, huh? All right. I'm gonna be really methodical. So this is my zipper. This is how I want it to go. So I want this to be like this. All right? Like this, see? There's my zipper. If I line up my hem, put this right sides together like that. Unzip. Always gets hung up on this little thick part right there. That's right sides together. All right, and so let's look at our distance here. Here's our hem and our zipper. I'm gonna pull it down just a smidge, just like that. And then we're gonna move it over to line up with the Hong Kong seam right there. Double check. I don't want my hem to look off. I probably won't get it perfect, but we'll see. I'm just gonna kind of reorient a few things here. Go. It's the wrong groove. Sorry about all the presser foot. I just can tell my thread just doesn't, oh, there it is. Okay, I thought it was really short. It's longer than I thought. All right, and then I want to be in this groove here. Yeah. It literally looks like I'm gonna sew on the coil because I can see it moving this over right before it goes by the needle. Makes me really nervous. I hope that worked. That doesn't look like it's gonna work. It's like magic. Giving it a little attention because of the crinkle cotton being so lightweight. But I'm just letting it kind of feed in there. It loves that thicker stuff. And this is where I had the problem on the other side, so I'm gonna, it's probably that transition of like going, oh, I like this, and then going down to this thin stuff, and it's like, eh. If you're doing a zipper on some fabrics, interfacing that whole edge would probably be really helpful. Oh, me too, Terry, I know. Let's just hope I didn't twist my zipper at all. That's what I always worry about. Okay, we got a lot of zipper going on here. Let's get oriented. Okay, moment of truth. Well, it doesn't line up very well on the waist. So maybe a belt is in order for sure. But the invisible part, solid gold. Look at how bad that is though. Yeah, sorry about that. I can't really change that without changing the length of my side seam really drastically. So there's this sometimes serious, what do you call them? Have to be made, you know, a belt or walk around with the arms raised. Maybe the butterfly sleeves will cover it up. All right, so let's just finish off the zipper at the other end now. We have a lot of it. So I'm gonna sew this seam together. This is where the, ooh. Aisha sent me something for this. She sent me these little scissors that aren't scissors. What are these called? Sutures? Suture scissors? I can't, what are these called? So this is a Kenneth King tip. Yeah, it's so busy too, right? I'm fine with, I mean, like, am I really that fine? You know, it's kind of a bummer. But at the same time, like, it's a one-off, and I'm pretty proud of where this has come in the last week. So, you know, it's my first time sewing it. Things happen. All right, so the Kenneth King tip is that he opens the zipper. This is kind of sticky right here. I'm not sure which side it's sticky on. Okay, so he opens it all the way. Right, wait, how does he do this? Hemostats, thank you. Okay, he opens it all the way, right? Wait, let me think about this. Because the trick with invisible zipper is it's really hard to sew below the zipper. It's not like a regular zipper. And you end up having this gap between your hem or your seam and your zipper. See, because you can't get all the way up to where we sewed it to the garment right there. See, but if the zipper is open like this, you can. It just means that you have to have a way to be able to grab the pull of the zipper. So if you don't have those, you're trying to sew your seam shut below the zipper, and the zipper head is like right here, right? Because this is as far as down as you can go. And you're trying to sew your seam together. Well, you can't right here. My seam doesn't look even on both sides. It's really annoying. I went a little past on one of them with the chalk. So if you pull it down past, you'll have more room to get your seam done, and then you use the hemostat. So let's see if I get it. We'll see. Why is this not lining up now? You literally saw me line all this up. Jeez. Or is it? Is it lining up? Maybe it is. Right? So I need to, you think he sews it shut, then he uses the grabs overhead and pull it closed. Yeah, exactly. So that's why I open the zipper, right? I sew the seam, and then I use the hemostats to pull the zipper through. Well, let's just check it out. Oh, let's put in a real zipper foot. I mean, a real foot. We don't need this one anymore. Foot off the pedal. All right, we'll sew it shut. I'm so glad I finally get to use this gift from Aisha. She was like, we have tons of those. I'm sending you some. All right, so let's try and get as close to the seam we've sewn. See right there? I'm go a little. Let's see. Oh, my zipper's not matching. Dang it. All right, something's up with this seam. Yeah, I recognize those for sure because my mom had them too. I need to take this out and get the, you can't have that little bubble that you just saw. You see that little bubble right there? Not good. Sorry, I'm practicing with my new foot on you guys. And on my wedding outfit, right? I'm so practical. Like I believe in like getting things for, you know, I'll spend money on things to try them out, especially if other people are going to benefit, right? But at the end of the day, if I'm like, I should practice on my invisible zipper foot, I don't want to have to use a bunch of invisible zippers to practice. Yes, I could take them out again, but you know how that is. It's a pain in the butt, right? So it's funny. Like for the next week, we have a skill building session in the Journeyist group, and it's like on deciphering pattern symbols and how to mark things on your garment. And I decided, because there were so many questions about marking, I decided I got every single marking option from Waywack, and it's going to be a marking part. You should see the box of stuff I got. It was $100 in marking utensils. So I'm willing to do that, but I'm not willing to like sew a bunch of invisible zippers and try it out. Like, come on, invisible zippers are cheaper than the marking supplies. Why wouldn't I? It's weird what constitutes being practical and what doesn't sometimes, right? All right, so let me zip this shut and get this lined up where it's going to be lined up like this. And look at that. It's not lining up. That's so obnoxious. That's why this is high, this is high, this is high. Look at that. Okay, well. The fix for that would be to take off the zipper, rehem, and you'd have to rehem one side and blend it in. That's the fix, just so you know. But we want the zipper to go in there nice and smooth. So we're gonna pin this together. And that's my problem now. Wah. Okay. Let's open the zipper. I don't think I have any videos. Are you by any chance in the, I don't know if you've heard, I have a space called So Guild. It's free to join, but there is paid content in there. So you can become a member of one of the groups, Journeyist group, or on my website, I do have I think it's on my website. I have a buttons and buttonhole skill building session that is really, really packed. It covers everything. And I think that's $25 for the both. And so you don't have to join the guild, you can do that. Or if you join the guild and you do something like the Journeyist group, I think it's $16 a month. You get access to all the skill building sessions, and there's a new one every month. That's the one I was just talking about for next week. All right, let's see. I don't know if that answers your question or if that's helpful at all. All right, so now we're here. I feel like I can zip this. Did I do something wrong? I feel like I did something wrong, Terry. I was able to zip that. I didn't need the hemostats. I'm scared. Let's look. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, no problem. My website's so.live. The one that Terry just gave you is the guild, the community. Aside from the seam not matching, the zipper looks really fantastic. Look at that. Yeah, the guild's amazing. Everyone in it is amazing. They're all amazing people. There's never drama. There's no advertising. It's free to join. You can just join and hang out and see what you think. Beautiful platform. No data mining. So, yeah. Yeah, it looks... Except for the seam lining up. Like, it's barely off there, and it's really off there. But the hem, that's what the bottom looks like here. So I'll just tuck these in. Maybe I'll do this. I'm going to try and decide what I want to do. I might do something fancier where I bind it or something. I could even take out some of this Hong Kong finish and tuck this into it like that. That would look nice, actually. Maybe I would do that. Pull the tape over and tuck it inside the binding. That's a little involved, but it might be worth it. I could at least do this, just tack it off to the side. I could do that right now, actually. I'll show you what it looks like. So that's how, if I just folded it over, then it would look like this. Right? I always pull it down like this, and then I fold that little thing up like that. But that could be tucked into that binding. It would be really involved, though. Yeah, exactly. This month, the apprentice group is free. We just had the second of their 2 benefits they get last night, but they're available to rewatch. So, all right, you guys. All I have left are hemming the sleeves, and it's done. That's it. I'm going to probably make someone cry by doing this. I'm going to trim this excess off. Oh, I need to finish this zipper here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of all this binding that I didn't use. Yeah, no pressure too, Estella. Like, if that's just not your jam, no worries. Some people are just like, nope, I don't do any sort of social media. It's not really like social media, but it does have that kind of, social aspect to it. It's just less pressure. I always put these little binding ends on the bottoms of zippers I cut because the zipper can be so sharp right there. So I just sew a little piece of binding over it like this. Like that. And I could probably have done it a little closer. In fact, maybe I should do it a little closer. I think I'll do that a little closer. So I just fold it on here. And then I perfected this doing this for years at Chicken Boots. I usually just like wrap it around so that they meet each other, and then I just fold it over, one over the other. Try and get it to stay the raw edges along the zipper. The closer you cut your zipper, like shorter, the harder it is to get all these raw edges to line up like that. What do I do with scraps? Well, I think I'm a kind of a weirdo, but what I do with my scraps is I mulch them in my garden. I create a lot of scraps. And so I don't throw any of them away. I put them in fabric, like pillows, where the fabric. I don't want the fabric, like some of it's damaged, some of it's just old. Sometimes people give me fabric I don't want that is not usable or smells or something. There's always some fabric around that I can use, and I just wait until I have something. And then I kind of make like pillows, and I just stuff them full of scraps, and then I lay them in my garden around the trees that need more water so that it retains the water, or areas where I don't want weeds or I can't mow. The other way I use them is I will just kind of cut them up a little bit, and then I take a piece of fabric that's also a scrap. I've even gone to the extra length to make this more appealing to people by photographing the ground in my yard and printing that fabric on spoon flower so it looks kind of camouflage-ish. And then I just stitch the little pieces of fabric. I just kind of like, you know, take my, like this would be great. I could make a mulch mat out of this, right? And I just take my little scraps and I just sew it on there. And then this side looks like a piece of fabric, and I just lay that on my potted plants. And it deters the squirrels from eating my succulents, the little buggers. And it makes it so I don't have to water very often, because I live in a pretty droughty area. All right, I'm gonna hem my sleeves and then we're done. Woo woo. Right, I'm done, right? There are places that take scraps as well and recycle them. You can, if you don't have a whole lot, I've made a floor poof using the Closet Core Patterns free poof. I hate that word. They have a free pattern for this floor poof. Just fair warning, it ends up being like 60 pounds when it's full. But my dogs love it. They use it as a step stool to jump up onto the couch. But you can use it as a footstool or something to sit on. It's very heavy. Just definitely take their advice and do the removable bag inside, because then you can wash the outer. You don't want to have to unstuff your poof with all the scraps, trust me. Gonna get a few little tucks there. What time is it? Oh yeah. Yeah, I do have a video. I haven't made a how-to. I just have a couple of live streams, and they're on my website. If you just search mulch on my website, they'll pop up. You can just watch a few minutes to see. I have had a how-to video in the works, and there was something about one of the clips that was making the whole video crash over and over, and I just got sick of trying to figure it out. I sometimes take those as signs that nobody wants to watch it, so I don't finish it. I'm like, oh, this video is not going to do good. I'm not going to finish it. So. Some of this edge is really easy, and I think it's where the bias is, weirdly. And then when it kind of straightens out, right before it straightens out on the grain, it gets a little harder. So there were two, I think, things that I need to address on this, right? I need to look at that one spot, a little funny there, of my zipper that was a little sticky to open and close. I may need to restitch that little spot. And then there was that area on my bodice that had gotten caught when I did the binding. I don't remember where that was, but I feel like it was on the back. Here it is, right here. Or that one, this is another one, I think. So those are two little things I need to, yeah, see, look at, ay caramba. How much time do you guys spend well, this is kind of a bad moment to ask this because I'm fixing this right now, but all right, say you've finished something, right? And you're pleased with it. You're like, this is cool. I like this. This went pretty good. But maybe like a month from now, you've worn it a couple times. You're like, you know, I need to do something. And do you spend a lot of time fixing makes that you've recently finished? Or maybe like, not fixing as if they're wrong, but just, you know, doing something to them to make them more wearable for you. Because I spend a lot of time on that. Like, I could literally have a full-time live stream for that. You know? Yeah. I don't have a rolled hem foot. Yeah, like the other day, every week it's something. Yeah, tweaking them. Exactly, Kira. Exactly, tweaking them. So the other day I brought in, well, the white tuck blouse that I drafted and sewed. I just couldn't stand how the top edge, because the linen keeps kind of like relaxing and kind of getting a little stretched out. And this one little spot where the placket met had this little whoop-de-doo. And I finally was like, you know what, it bugs you, just work on it. But those things, sometimes I get a little nervous. I'm like, oh, I might make this worse. I may not ever get it back, you know? So I worked on that. And then my Mitchell trousers, I brought those things in. And I cropped them. I cropped a lot off of them. And I put snaps at the center back so that those little belt things aren't flopping around anymore. Oh, interesting, Christina. So for you, it's more like an issue. Yeah. Yeah, for me, like I will sometimes keep wearing something, but then it just kind of bugs me, and I just eventually I'm like, you know what, just do something about it. You know, like the Ames jeans, I wasn't wearing those, and I could tell they were just too low rise for me. And it's weird because if I look at that pattern and compare it to others, it doesn't seem low rise at all. The picture on the cover looks low rise to me. And I don't know why it feels that way. And I think it might be because, follow me here, that the space for the body is bigger. And so really what's happening is you might have the same length of a seam for the rise, right? This is your front rise, by the way. You might have the right length for like a pair compared to another pair of pants, but because it's sitting at an angle like this, not like this, it's lower rise. I don't know. I never really looked into it. Right, Randa? Exactly. Yeah. But for me, I love those things, and they feel the best when I fix them. All right, I'm just trying to figure out where the back is. All right, so I fixed one side of the bodice, but I think that there was another spot that I need to fix. Yeah, and there's sometimes there are projects where I'm like, no, I'm not gonna wear this. I don't like it. It doesn't fit well. There's been a couple sponsored things I sort of felt that way about, and I donated one because it was perfect sewing condition, never worn. It wasn't my style. I couldn't figure out how to sew part of it, and I was live. I asked the pattern designer about it. They never replied. So I got a little bit like, you know what? Forget this. I don't want to wear this thing. So, does it keep me from moving on? Huh. No. I don't know if you're asking me. Maybe you're asking Randa, but it sounds like Randa uses it as a like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to sew next, so I'm going to work on these things. And that's kind of me too. If I have, like, sometimes I have a lot of projects going on, but I can't really work on any of them because they're all live streams or something, or they're piling up, or I have like an hour where I can't get too involved with something. I will work on one of those things. I try not to let them take up too much of my productivity time. Yeah, right, Libby? And I think that, like, that's a really big, like, for something like pants or jeans, I'm not saying this is the case for you, that can be a really emotional project for some people. And they get to that, they're like, yay, and then they're like, wait, I'm not sure about this. And so they get frustrated, right? Understandably, they get frustrated. It's only this part right here that's hard to hem on this. My advice when that happens to me is sit with it. Like if you're really mad at them, it's like, yeah, just sit with the anger. Set them aside until you feel like tackling them, you know? Because sometimes it's that, right? You're so close. I did this yesterday because I was sewing something really quick and I was not using the pattern for its intended purpose or fabric. And I was like, okay, I want this in this fabric. Do I waste the half yard of fabric I have in experimentation, or how do I make this work? And so I did all these calculations, cut it out, sewed it, and I was like, oh wow, I did not need to do any of that stuff. It was fine. And I took it to the table and I cut it all off and I got my fabric back and did it again. And it was fairly successful experiment. But it's like, yeah, it's like one of those things where you're like, okay, this didn't go well. I don't want to take out all the serging. But if I stop now, I'll lose my place with where I've come with learning about what this needed. And sometimes I just need to persevere and just push through. Other times I need to just take a break. You feel like you need to stay on it, but I need other things I have love. Yeah, right, Marilyn? Yeah, exactly. Or put on an elastic, add elastic or drawstring. And I think like that right there, Christina, I feel like that right there is a good example. Like I recently fixed my closet core Charlie caftan, which I've had for a few years. But twice now, if you make the version with the little tie, that gets stuck in the washing machine and it rips the front panel because I wasn't washing it inside out, which I should have been. And then that would have helped prevent that. Or maybe like clipping the belts to the garment somewhere. And it ripped the belt the last time so badly, I had to recut that whole inset, a bigger, longer inset and a little taller to get rid of all the rips. But I pulled it off. I don't know if I could have done it on the live stream, but I pulled it off. And I didn't put the belt back. And I was like, oh, it still needs a little cinching. And that's what I was thinking, Christina. It's like, I could just add a piece of elastic to the back. So that kind of thing, like you get it done, you're fine with it, but you're like, it still needs something. And that's what I mean. Like, do you just go back and add a little piece of elastic? How often are you doing that kind of thing? Okay, cool. Yeah, exactly. You just like to move on. Exactly, Libby. All right, let's try the top on the dress form. And wait, where's that other little spot that, oh, here it is. Here it is right here. I don't have one on this one, right? It's that binding. Between the puffiness of the crinkled cotton and the binding of this little curve, I caught the garment on both sides. It has nothing to do with how cavalier I am when I sew. Nothing. I can't wait to see your jeans, Libby. That's so exciting. All right. And Libby, don't you just love that I bought that fabric at that fabric store that in Sacramento? And you even said, like, for a Mexican wedding shirt or something like that. That's the name of those camp shirts, the guayabera. I'm going to say it's called guayabera. Guayabera. Yeah, exactly, Christina. I see a little tuck in my seam, actually. So we're going to get rid of that, too. Just fix it now, so I'm not home going, wish I would have done that. I sort of toy with wearing this at Hearts on Monday. Right? It's so funny that fabric's perfect for that. Okay, so this first pass, we're just going to correct this seam. We're correcting 2 issues on this. There is a definite curve here. Sorry, I'm holding it with my fingers to kind of get it to not tuck. And now I need to secure. That was the seam, right? I see this other thing and I'm like, what's that? What the heck? Too much stitching. Okay, now we just need to re-stitch this binding without catching the bodice this time. All right, now we get to see it on the dress form. Let's get rid of all these little threads I created. Phew! Okay. So here's the Myrna dress, right? You can see here's the V panels. No panels in the back. It's just a bodice with darts. Here's the original butterfly bat blouse that I have morphed. So see, no shaping, no nothing. It does have the you can see the shoulder seam up here. This is how you do the I forgot this is how she does the gathers on the butterfly. It's like 3 rows. All right. This one also has like a slit in the side. The butterfly blouse has a slit in the side for a belt. All right, where's my zipper? I'm gonna take this pin out. Let's hope I can get it on the dress form. Sometimes I can't, but I could with my fit trials, I'm pretty sure. Well, I tried it on me actually. I also probably won't be able to zip it if I remember right. It's so sticky. Okay. Okay, we did get it to zip. Trying to get that blousing effect. I'm a lot softer than Trixie here. So, you know, like here, this is all like solid, and this will blouse a little bit more. I went for more of a blousing look than what I'm wearing. So you can see in the back how it blouses. Yeah, collapsible shoulder. It's so nice when you can go boop, boop. All right. Let's see, I'm trying to put it over here. Here we go. Trying to get it so you can see the detail of it. Oh man, this mat drives me crazy. I have this rug down here to help with noise. checking it out myself. See, I love the way these sleeves are because you actually have an armhole. It's not just all like Wild Wild West under there, you know? Like some of those butterfly sleeves, they really shortchange you on coverage underneath. Oh, I have some flipping here, so I'll deal with this too. But I haven't pressed this, so that might help. You know, Libby, how you've been talking about the cut-on sleeve in those vintage things. This garment is like that. And so the tension right here is really, it can be really tight under the arm there. This has no set-in sleeve. It just goes off the shoulder there. Oh, yeah, you like that, Louise? I feel like the other one has that with the belt. It's very trim, but I just wasn't a fan of how low cut it was. And I really wanted it to, I don't know, I think the butterfly would have been a little more authentic for a beach pajama look. Like I don't have the flipping on this one, but I have it on this one. That's why you're careful with your rolled hems, Terry, so you don't get that. Maybe it'll stay. Maybe it was just flipped. Yeah, I'm happy. I like how trim the bottom is too. It doesn't flare out. So yeah. To be really just transparent, Louise, I don't own that. I own this one right here. I've never worn it. I do think that it would stay closed because the original, the belt is sewn, you sew the belt at one end of here, so that helps, and the other one is tacked on the inside. So I think you fasten this to one side and you do this. So it's actually very, very secure. I'll show you a little video, Louise. I have it right handy because I was showing everybody. So this is the butterfly blouse. And see, like when I lift my arm up, it's a real armhole. Thanks, Diane. Here, I'll show you. This one? So look, the one on the right's the butterfly. And that is a rayon. So the rayon, it's thin too. It's a very, very lightweight fabric I got from Hearts. This is actually at Hearts. They probably gave it away by now or sold it, I don't know. But yes, it's very secure. You can see it's like, it feels great. But it's a little low cut for me. So. Since this isn't actually either of the patterns, you make it your own. Well, I kept my pattern. Yeah. I shortened the sleeves, Libby. Yeah, by a lot. Probably by 2 inches. Yeah. I shortened them and I changed the shape of the hem because if you look at this one, I can't see around the darn camera. They're longer in back. I cannot look around the camera at myself. It's really annoying. So, but yeah, it is a little shorter in some places. Yeah, I think the shortening, I think, and to be fair, you guys, this one has been sitting in my studio for years on a hanger. So the linen probably, and the bias of that sleeve hem has probably stretched out. But I did shorten it. Name it and sell it. That sounds so easy, Kira. In just my size? No, I actually used pieces of their patterns to draft that, so I could not do that. That would be very not okay. I know, Terry, I know. But I think you guys had a really good idea. I have the belt here to sew. Maybe I will use this belt I still want to make, I'm going to make this belt. I probably won't do it today. We'll do it with maybe with the Winslows. But I like the picture with the green belt. Let me show you. So you see, oh, sorry, it's huge. Oh my gosh, where is it? This one. So you see the belt there that I drew? Night, Louise. I like the solid green belt. But I'm using the, I cut it out of print. So I think the solid green actually looks better. This would make it look very pajama-y in not a good way. So, but maybe using this on the white shirt, if I don't use it. Yeah, I think the solid green. So I'm going to try and find some solid green at Hearts since I get to shop in person. That'll be great, right? I think the solid green. I hope I can find some. Yeah. I'm getting fabric for my camp shirt. So join the summer camp sew along. If you want to make a camp shirt with us in the guild, it's free to join. It's a group on the left side of the guild, and I put a bunch of pattern ideas there and links directly to them, and some movie inspiration. If you're not American and you want to understand what the heck we're talking about, it's all about the Parent Trap, by the way. And yeah, it'll be fun. June and July, we'll sew a camp shirt. You don't have to follow rules or anything. I don't care about that. But I did give a little history and some of the key components of a camp shirt. So we'll, if you want to follow in the spirit. I'm going to make a pullover camp shirt. I'm inspired by the Donnie, and I'm going to modify one of mine and make it a pullover. That'll be fun. So I'm going to shop for fabric for that. I'm going to shop for fabric for shirts for my husband, or I'm going to make him do it actually. And for this video gig I just got hired for. Yeah, it was kind of fun. Like doing the research was kind of fun. It's not hard. You can actually just Google like camp shirts, the history of camp shirt. It's really interesting. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, that's funny. A few people that have that laundry basket, like Cricket's like, I love this thing. I made her 2 and she wants another one. I'm like, no, I'm not making you another one. Do your laundry. I think so, Fiona. It doesn't have a collar stand. The tricky thing about a camp shirt is that there's no back neck facing, but you could add one, and I'll show you guys how to do that. You can just add a back facing if you really don't want to deal with turning that under and whatever. But I'm going to, sew that. But yeah, it's not like a regular placket. It's a front facing, which is really easy. The shirt sleeve usually really easy to sew on a camp shirt. I'm going to probably put a yoke in the back of mine because I find them more comfortable, but you don't even have to do a yoke. It really is a pretty simple shirt. Yeah, exactly, Terry. You can just do a back neck facing. It's nice. It looks nice because then you can put your label on there, and when it hangs up, you can even do a deep one so you have hanger appeal. There's like things you can do to make it cool. So, well, thanks for sticking around for my adventure on my 30s blouse here. I'm happy. I feel like it's all coming together. This was the hard thing. So we just have the Winslows to make in a couple weeks, like a week and a half. It's only going to be 2 sewing streams during the week, a Wednesday and a Thursday. The wedding is that Saturday. I almost did sewing part 2 on the day of the wedding, but then I was like, why would I do that to myself? Because it's going to take me a day and a half to figure out my flipping hair and makeup because I don't know what I'm doing. So look at all this binding I still have. I did end up using almost all of this. Will I use this on the Winslows? I don't think so. Dang it. Oh yeah, happy Mother's Day to everybody. That's what I think too, Christina. They look pretty simple. They also have an invisible zipper. And if anyone's in the Hearts fabric area and you want to stop by, it'll be very, very low key. I'll be there at 11 a.m. on Monday. Hopefully that gives you time to get there because of traffic. I'm gonna plan to be there till like 2-ish. If you are gonna come and you can't come till like 5, tell me so I come back. Right, Kira? Because I put the whole day aside and I would love to meet you. And I know that that time is kind of unique. So if you can't come till later, just let me know in the guild or message me and I'll make sure. If you want help shopping for fabric or something, I'll be there. So have a great weekend. Happy Mother's Day. And I'll see you guys in a couple weeks for the Winslow culottes, or I'll see you in the guild for all kinds of stuff. So bye. Happy Mother's Day.